Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon, good evening, sorry. Okay, we continue for our topics on the business research method class. Okay, we have done on topic or chapter introduction and chapter literature review. So today we continue for the next chapter for research methodology. So purpose today, little bit sharing in order to get more understanding on topic on research design and methodology. Okay, this is the first series, first topic for research methodology in chapter 3. So we try to explore and make it understanding for what is actually a research design, what is a very so important for our research methodology. So we need to know that all the rigorous, more detailed in the outline in rigorous way in order to make sure all the single things and important thing will be covered on the chapter 3 and follow all the items or outline, follow the sequence and then follow the structured way. Okay, so we have a few slides to cover this topic on research design and methodology. Okay, this is a definition of research design. A study design is an action plans. Okay, the keyword is an action plans to meet the objective or answer the research questions. And in order to answer your research question, research objective, or your research hypothesis. In research design, we have procedure required for data collections and instrument or measurements and data analysis that help or assist researcher to organize and solve research problem, which is every activities, every process and procedure follow the sequence in order to answer your objective research question hypothesis. You should be sure or view that the process start step 1 until end. So how that this is really important, not just only to answer research question, but settle off your research process. Start with the data collection, measurement analysis, and in the end, after you've done to answer your questions, objective or hypothesis, which is you can solve your research problem. So this is really important. Some of students just only report on your research design, just give a definitions. They just to explain research design is blah 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 blah. But the most important thing, where your research design, you need to view, you need to draw, and this I try to give the example how to make research design in terms you can come up with the figure or infographic or chapter writings in order to explain step by step your process. Some of the research we call that procedure or protocol. Okay. Okay, we cover a few scholars and authors to explaining what is a research design. Okay, we know that a few of the scholars. Okay, I try to match the scholar is actually represent on the business. Okay, but some of the scholar such as Creswell is not just only cover in the general in methodology. Some of the scholar is Creswell is mostly in education, but this scholar also practice also suitable to implement with the others fields in your research. Okay, Creswell is not just only for education, for our itself, for business research method also we can cite on Creswell. Okay, Creswell suggested that study design involve the interaction between research philosophy. Okay, this thing I try to cover by next week's. Okay, I hope so can cover by next week or another weeks. Okay, we need to clearly more detail what is a research philosophy. Okay, before on that, today I try to cover in the simply way what is actually the research design. Okay, follow the Creswell. Okay, we refer back. Okay, Creswell is interaction between research philosophy. That's another one, research philosophy. You should be know that what is your research philosophies. Research strategies. So If you are studying quantitative, maybe you use experiment or survey. What is a research strategy for the qualitative research? Action research, case study, phenomenology, grounded theories, narrative inquiries. What else? Ethnographies. We have a lot on what in the research strategy in qualitative. And research method, we can say that you start with the mono method. I'm just use quantitative only, so that we call that mono quantitative. I just use only in qualitative, that we call that mono qualitative. So we have mixed methods. So we have mixed method research or mixed method models. Okay, we have the multi methods. So we have multi method quantitative, multi method qualitative, or we have multi method mix. So a lot of the research methods. So before we clear on this, we should be know that about our philosophy, approach, research strategy, and research method. But in this case, Creswell, okay, the most important thing on the research design interaction between philosophy, research strategy, and research method. Okay, other scholar like Kogigolo, 1998, 2000, which involve three components. So they are suggest also three, and research philosophy, research approach, and technique. Little bit different with the Creswell. So research Creswell, philosophy, research strategy, and research method. But in this Kogigolo, they are proposed on the research philosophy, research approach, and research technique. Okay. Next, other scholar, Saunders. Okay, Saunders further by detail. Actually, Saunders actually it's not compare. I think please make sure you mute, yeah. So to reduce of others communications. Okay. Okay, for the Saunders, actually Saunders proposed 6. Okay, Creswell proposed suggest 3, Kogigolo 3, but Saunders suggest 6. Okay, Saunders 2019 is a new book. I will be sharing you specifically on the chapter 3 methodology from the Saunders. Okay, detailed by suggesting some basic issues that need to be clarified, determining the accuracy of data collection technique and research analysis procedure based on the onion research design. Okay, I believe that most of the researcher on the business research, we actually follow this, the Saunders, the research design, we call that onion research design. Okay, every important issue related research design need to be explained, okay, by this, follow the sequentially. Okay, just start with the philosophy. Okay, need follow by sequential. Okay, this is a research onion, layer by layer. Okay, we start with the philosophy, second approach, third strategies, and this one strategies represent our research strategies. Option refer on the methods, time horizon, and technique and procedure. We have 6: philosophy, approach second, research strategy 3, options, and what sometimes we call that choice is 4, time horizon is 5, and technique and procedure is 6. So they have 6 layer or 6 process need to follow by sequentials, okay, from your research design layer and layer, or activity by activity on your research methods. Okay, this not some, this is actually what is actually Kogigolo nested approach suggests. They have 3: research philosophy, research approach, and research technique. Okay, for this purpose, I just to share more complete based that from the ideally from Saunders. So this is actually from the Saunders. Okay, this part you need to very clearly understand the process on the research methodology. Some of the researcher, because they try to make it finish early on research methodology, always think that the most important thing on research methodology is about data collection and data analysis. Okay, no, actually, it's research design. You need to explore on the philosophy first, because in your proposal defense on your viva, the panel will ask you, what is your research philosophy? Then you need to answer in terms of positivism, or critical realisms, interpretism, postmodernism, pragmatism, what else? Interpretisms. So we have a lot. So Saunders just to propose only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's very limited, quite general. Actually, we have many research philosophy. It depends on your topic and your field. Okay, so we have positivism, critical interpretism, postmodern pragmatism. I just give example, quite simple example. If you are study only use quantitative research, if you use only quantitative research, your philosophy is positivism. Okay, if you just using only on quantitative research. If you use qualitative research, maybe you use interpretism. This one mostly most suitable and recommend for qualitative research. If you are use mixed method, maybe your research philosophy is pragmatism. Okay, critical realism, maybe you can refer on the quantitative, and postmodernism is for the qualitative, but it's very basic, it's easy to understand. Most of the researcher on quantitative, we use positivism, qualitative, interpretism, and mixed method is pragmatism. You need to understand, you need to clear on this, you need to read more and more thesis and article journal about your research philosophy. Some of topic field is actually they have very detailed discussion on the philosophy. So if I'm using in quantitative, I'm discuss on the positivism. Okay, the second layer, the second layer, the second layer we call that approach. So we have approach to theory development, or the that we just to easy to remember. This second step is approach. Okay, we have deduction, abduction, and induction. Okay, deduction for quantitative and deduction for quantitative. That's why if you are explore in qualitative, we have rigorous in terms of validation and process on the validation. So a lot you need to come up to make sure that your population and sample is accurate, more suitable. So you need do the pilot study. You have the specific numbers. Maybe you have pilot study 100. That you need to do the normality test. So you need do the exploratory factor analysis. All this step, all this process, we call that deduction. And if you make sure the data should be normal, in order to make it normal, you have outliers. You need to remove all the outliers. If you want to the factor analysis, some your factor analysis is not fixed. Okay, not actually achieved for the factor loading factors. So you need to delete the item. So you need to delete your sample. You need to delete your item. That's why deduction is more suitable for quantitative research. Okay, if you are qualitative, it's actually induction. That's why when you go to the interview, okay, your answer is not represent, not saturated. You need to go interview and more and more and more and more interview. Your process may get quite long, longitudinals. Okay, that's why you call that induction. If you are study mixed method, this is actually abduction. Abduction is actually mixed. For your study actually involve approach, deduction, and induction. That we call that abduction. So abduction for the mixed method, if you are quantitative is deduction, if you are qualitative is induction. This we call that approach. Okay, in this process, the sounders suggest the research onions. This one, you need to check before you identify, before you finalize, our study is quantitative. Are you sure your research is quantitative research? That's why you need to check your philosophy. And then second is your approach. Okay, after you done your philosophy and approach, a third layer, we call that methodological choice or option. Okay, we have monomethod quantitative. Monomethod quantitative represent you just only use quantitative only. Okay, if you use qualitative only, we call that monomethod qualitative. Okay, they have multi-method quantitative, meaning that you use two or more. If you use one, we call that monomethod quantity. But you use many, maybe two and above and more. For the quantitative, for example, you use survey and then you do experiment. That we call that multi-method quantitative. Or the second one is multi-method qualitative. First, use case study. Second, actual research. In this research, I use case study and actual research. Then we call that multi-method qualitative because you use two methods in the qualitative. Okay, we have mixed methods, simples, and mixed methods, complex. Okay, mixed method, simple and complex. If which is your study, you use both. You use quantitative. Okay, for example, quantitative survey and for the qualitative, you use actual research. So in this research, you use survey and actual research. That's why we call that mixed method. But it depends. We have simple and complex. Mostly on the mixed methods, is should be is follow the triangulations, meaning that you have survey, interview, document, or observations. Okay, but they have, for example, for the simple, that we have sequentials. Okay, we have the exploratory sequential, explanatory sequential. Okay, but for the complex, which is that we call that the transformative mixed methods, or some of we call that consequent. What the name actually? I forget. Not just only transformative, we call that bertindan. Another way, I forget the type of the mixed method. That the part of the complex. So we have two types. There's a simple mixed method or the complex mixed method. Yes, transformative and concurrent. So transformative and concurrent is under mixed method complex. So another like sequentials, exploratory and explanatory under mixed method simples. Okay. That we cover the third layer of the methodological choice. Okay, we go to the number 4. For layer number 4 is a research strategies. Okay, they have experiment. If you are quantitative, you use experiment and survey. Okay, we have another achievable research. This for the qualitative case study, also qualitative ethnography, also qualitative actual research, also qualitative grounded theory, qualitative narrative inquiry. One researcher or your supervisor or the panel will ask you, what is your research strategy? That you need to give the answer based on this one. You use 1 or 2. Right? This 1 or 2 is actually will be represent for your research, which is your mono or multi or mixed method. That's why we need to check. Are you sure you just only use the experiment? If you just use experiment, why you mention you use multi-method quantitative? That's why despite the yellow area, you should be aligned. And if you use only mono method quanti, meaning that you use experiment or survey, because you just only one. Okay, so we have a number 4 is time horizon. See, this is actually based on your time of your research. Okay, for qualitative maybe take time. Okay, that's why most of the research on the qualitative based on longitudinals. Okay, but for the quantitative, for the survey, especially from the survey questionnaire, is mostly is cross-sectional. Okay, easy. So you can send by online. Okay, no specific time. So okay, the people, the respondent will be answer is depend from their free time. Okay, no need to see no others face-to-face activity or the question. Just you can send by mail or email, and okay, to answer your question, very straightforward. You have direct question, liquid question to answer your all questions. Okay, but more generalization. So in quantitative, cross-sectional, more generation. But for the qualitative, you need to very purposive. Okay, that's why you have in order to make sure your answer can achieve the saturated. So this based on the maybe time is quite long, and that's why in terms of the time horizon in qualitative they have the longitudinal. Okay, the last one is training and procedure. And training and procedure. Okay, then after you've done your philosophy, approach, methodological choice, strategy, and time horizon, then we discuss about your questionnaire, your interview questions, on your checklist, both based on the observation, how you strategize when you collect data, how you want to make it analysis. You only discuss on this matter after you done cover on philosophy, approach, methodology, choice, strategy, and time horizon. Okay, this is a good research design actually. Okay, I'm also use this research onions and to be my research design. So I'm highly recommend for business research method, because our class is business research method. Use this research onion. Okay. Okay, this is some example is based my experience. Okay, this is my PhD. Okay, during my PhD, because I'm sorry because in bahasa Melayu, Okay, because I'm right in bahasa in my thesis, so this is my example. So I show you that this research onion, okay, I use falsafah, philosophy, use positivism, okay, and then for the approach, I'm use deductive, okay. I just to highlight or you can circle whatever specifics part item that you use in this layer on this process research design. Okay, for the methodology, I'm use the mono method quantitative, and then for strategies, I'm use the survey and tinjauan. From the time horizons, I'm use the cross sectional or kelatan rentas. And then last one is kedah kerjaan, the technique. Okay, so this is a part of 6 layer of the research onion I apply for my PhD thesis. Okay, a lot of the discussion of on the research design. I'm sorry, yeah, because some of the my slide is actually the image or the figure in bahasa Melayu. Okay, this is because I not change from the original. So in this part, you can see that from the starting number 1 is triangulation. So it's really important in if you are study on the mixed method, for example. So this example is from the mixed method. The aspect triangulation is most important thing based on your instrumentations. So you should have survey, interview, observation, or document. So in the most important thing when you apply the mixed method and for the triangulation design, in order you have specific method for specific objective or research question. In order to get the data on the finding, you need two interpretations together after you end the process. Okay, number 2 is embedded. So how that this research design on the mixed method, that how that you need to embed it on your research on your quantitative and qualitative. But in this way, you can see that we know that embedded, but the most important thing, the font, the big fonts, okay, qualitative is represent on the exploratory. Yeah, we know that it's embedded. You are study qualitative, but you embed on the quantitative. So you need to interpretation after you done. Okay, number 3 is exploratory research design. Number 4 is explanatory research design. Okay, actually we have mistake here. Okay, we have mistake here. Okay, please double check. This quantitative is actually is not exploratory. Okay, please make sure you need to change because this is original. I want to show you there's actually a little bit error here. Number 3 is not exploratory, should be explanatory. Okay, number 3, it should be explanatory. Please take note. Okay, number 3 is explanatory. Number 4 is exploratory. Okay, quantitative. When you start first in quantitative, if your research dominant in quantitative, then support in the qualitative. This we call that research design in explanatory because you start with the quantitative dominant by quantitative. But in another case, when you start with the qualitative or your dominant research is the qualitative, you should be called that exploratory. That's why I need to change. Number 3 is not exploratory, should be explanatory. Number 4 is exploratory. Okay, please make sure this little bit error from here. Okay, this is another examples how that this researcher Adiba Abdul Wahab, okay, that they are applied from the Creswell, but they show another visuals and applied the visual that to make it very simple, very practical to understand. In this research, they use qualitative and quantitative. They use the mixed method. Okay, okay, but in order to make very good figures, and they highlight that they have 3 types, which is literature review, qualitative and quantitative. Okay, okay, we straight away go to the data collections, literature review based on the previous studies. Qualitative, they use instrument interviews. For quantitative, they use the primary from the questionnaire and secondary data. Okay, the purpose is actually to number 1, why you need to use the literature review, because you want to develop theoretical frameworks. Why you use a qualitative? Because you want to identify. In this topic is about zakat. So they want to identify deeply regarding on the payment of or the factors of the payment of zakat. So data secondary and data primary for the quantitative, you want to understanding the scenario potential analysis, and then you want to testing the hypothesis and model. So For literature review purposely, it's not specifically answer objective, research objective, but for qualitative, answer the research objective number 3, and quantitative answer research objective number 1, 2, for the secondary, for primary, objective number 3, 4, and 5. So how about implementations? So literature review is really try to make it summary previous study using by construct and model, and then propose the conceptuals. For the qualitative, it's actually identify the factors, okay, and then make it the interviews, structured interviews. But for the quantitative, using on in term of the annual report to get some data regarding on the specific data. And then for the primary data, so they are using the analysis EFA, exploratory factor analysis, and then regress the analyzing using the PLS SAMs. So the regarding on the analysis method, so using the content analysis for literature review, inductive analysis for qualitative, but for the quantitative, they are using the analysis, descriptive analysis, and the relationship or the regress analysis. So this is a way they show that their research design to make the panel with and supervisor will be clearly understand, and then specifically refer on your research objective. Number 1, what's actually instrument that you use in order to get the data, and then you interpret to get the findings. Okay, this is another examples from Hafiz Hanif. They try to show that how that their topic helping as participation in open online community. So this to show that how that they are integrate on the quantitative and qualitative. This we call that sequential quantitative to qualitative mixed method research design. That the name is sequential quantitative to qualitative method research design. So they starting with the survey, and then they are through the straight way go to the survey analysis. Okay, and so in the end also they have survey interview analysis, but in term of in the middles, their interaction between interview and survey. So this one we call that concurrent and between survey and interview. So they have also to make sure that this methods not just only survey and interview to complete on the triangulation, they do also from the observation and document analysis. Actually in this time they use 4: a survey, interview, documents, and observations. Okay, this is a research design that is proposed by Helber Nassim from their thesis. Okay, the topic regarding on the effectiveness, teacher perception on effectiveness on Oxford online placement test of the King Abdulaziz University. So they have three steps, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Stage 1 interview, face-to-face interview. Stage 2 is questionnaire. Stage 3 is the interview. So they use 2, interview and questionnaire. Okay, in the between from to stage 1 to stage 2, stage 2 to the stage 3, they use the prelim analysis. And then they combine from the survey, from a questionnaire and interview, that combine together between quantitative and qualitative, integrate, that we call the integration of qualitative and quantitative findings. Okay. So just to show that this is an example, okay, you need to refer a lot of theses to get some idea. You know that we have many idea in order to propose your research design. Okay, everybody here, you need to have your research design in your research, because the supervisor, the panel will ask you where your research design. Okay, you can adopt research design from your previous study, from the research methodology book, or you can adapt. Or you can propose new research design. Okay, this some example how to write research design. Okay, this is an example how to write research design. Okay, this one from Ruzanifah Kosnim. The topic is gold dinar acceptance in modern monetary system. Okay, this one is from the empirical evidence in the contact gold dinar community in Malaysia. Okay, this part you need to also to write in your thesis in your chapter 3 about your research design. Okay, in this case, they start to explain. Okay, research design is the overall structure and orientation of an investigation, which consists the technique or the procedure in collecting and analyzing data in order to answer your research question and eventually achieve the research objective. Okay, In the first line, they cite by Bryman. Bryman is actually a methodology scholar also. Very good research methodology scholar. Okay, from the Bryman, they highlight that it's really important. Research design is really important to show that all structure, all activity, all the process in your process start with a technique and procedure in order to answer your research question and research objective. Okay. Number two, they continue. Research design should be consistent with the research philosophy. Then, okay, when we after we already learn from the soundest research onion, the first layer is philosophy. That's why before you go to collect data, before you analyze, the first thing you need to face is in order to face, in order to answer, and then you need to write what is your research philosophy. Okay, this is actually this one also cite from the sounders and comprise judgment on the sampling choice. Okay, after that you need to know that what is your sampling choice, data collection and data analysis. Okay, meaning that we know that mostly research always think about this sampling, data collection and analysis. And in this part, the side of the sekarang, I think that I believe that from our class, you are actually are from the business student. I believe when the first book we refer during our degree is read a book of the Umar Sekaran. Okay, Umar Sekaran is a refer on the business research method books also. Okay, Sounders also is business research method. Okay, that's why in our UPSI, okay, if you are a student from the business, you join this class, or non-education, you join this class. If you are actually educations, you should be join another class, because another class will be refer books from the education scholar. Okay, maybe the style on the writing also difference. Because education, they have the different style with the non-education research. Okay. In this research, the most appropriate design to answer the main research question is by using cross-sectional. Okay, please remember that time horizon. We have two actually, cross-sectional and longitudinal. Okay, in this study, in this research, the most appropriate design to answer the main research question by using cross-sectional. Okay. Then field survey, they use a survey, and survey which is for the quantitative part. Is non-experimental design that measure variable test their effect using statistical method. We know that in quantitative you have two, experiment and non-experiment. If the sum, when you read books, they mention in on the quantitative research method, for example, they're using the keyword is non-experiment. Non-experiment represent for survey. Okay. This one from the Bataji. Bataji also from the management scholar also. Okay. Field survey allow achievement of this research objective. Okay. When they use a survey ataupun tinjauan, they can be to answer their research objective. That's the most important. When you use specific research strategy, make sure this is the best research strategy, because you can answer your research question or research objective. Okay, field survey able to capture belief or practice for the random sample subject survey questionnaire. The property of field survey tend to have products that they highlight that how that this survey really important in order you answer your research objective. In cross-sectional field survey, dependent variable. Okay, by doing the cross-sectional, okay, that easy to assess, easy to achieve that your research, if you use the construct of variable, you have independent or dependent variable. That's why in this research using the survey and then use the cross-sectional in order to achieve, in order to answer your objective and research question. Okay, these two paragraph, how that the Ruzanifa Kosnem try to highlight what their research design. Not just give only definition, but you need to highlight that what is your reason. In your research, what design you need to highlight, you need to explain what actually your philosophy, your approach, your research strategy, and your time horizon, your technique also. Okay. Okay, this one from the Fazilah Razali, and this is in Bahasa. Okay, this is very straightforward from Fazilah Razali. Okay, that this highlight that the first paragraph, they highlight this research is about on the correlation research. Okay, they want to study regarding variables and influence from variable independent and dependent variables. So they're using the questionnaire in order to answer their research objective. And then this research is most important thing to investigate effects between IV and DV. Okay, basically this year topic is about STEM, our education 21 centuries. Okay. Okay, next one, this is some example from the outline and overall structured methodology. Okay, so this is my experience. This is my first PhD doctorate engineering 2012 that I have my research design. I show you based this like flow charts. Okay, I have phase one, okay, phase two, phase three, phase four, phase one. Okay, phase one is start on the literature review. Okay, phase two on the data collections. Phase three is data analysis. Phase four, a case study and validations. Phase five is conclusion recommendation. In this research design, not just only highlight the phase, but also the continuity align is phase is referred on your chapter 1 and chapter 3. For example, phase 1, literature review and development research method is represent to answer your chapter 2 and chapter 3. But your phase 2 data collection represent your chapter 3 and chapter 4. And data analysis for phase 3 cover on chapter 4, phase 4 case study and validation, refer chapter 5, conclusion recommendation chapter 6. It doesn't matter how many your chapters. Okay, you can, your thesis can, you have 5th chapter, 6th chapter, 7th chapter. In my case, my first PhD, I have 6 chapters. My second PhD, I have 7 chapters. It's actually, is depend. Whatever decision, you need to discuss with your supervisor and then get the approval from your panel during your proposal defense and viva. Okay, this is actually my friend, Professor actually. Elita Amrina is my junior during my doctorate engineering. So they have a little bit difference. So, but the process is quite same. They start from the literature review and then the construct for the variable. So they're using the survey methodology, develop a tools, and then develop a software with discussion and conclusion. Okay, a little bit we actually do the same thing actually because we are from engineering. So we need to propose a product. So we need to test a product. We need to design. We come up with a new design. We need to come up with the product, and then we need to testing and validate the products. Okay. So in our team, actually, we use the tools. As my friends use a software, but myself is automotive tools. Okay, this is something like I can be suggest with you. My student actually, my PhD student specifically, they propose a design. Sometimes my student can come out the new questionnaire, okay, new research design, and then protect this research design and questionnaire. In Malaysia, we have MIPO, and Malaysia Intellectual Property Organization. So in this case, if you can propose your own or adapt questionnaire or research design. Our topic tonight is research design. If you can propose the unique or the adaptive or new research design, you can copyright. Okay, this belong to originality. During your viva, in part of contribution, when the panel asks you what is your research contribution, this is a part of you can highlight also. In this research, I'm adapt or I'm propose a new research design. So this research design, to make it originality, I send to the MIPO to get the copyright. Okay, so this is some example. And this is an example from Nututiani. So Nututiani actually, they come up a module for the, in this part, they use DDR and ADI, and then this actually DDR, okay? And then they use the ADI, analysis, design, development, implementation, evaluation, then they propose M. The name is propose M, so that's why they are module in the context of the KBAT. So they're using the multimedia, they call that propose M, have multimedia, and also booklet. For this multimedia and booklet, their module, their copyright. So in this step, they have the process. They start main features of proposed M. So they explain what is proposed M regarding validation, pilot study, testing, formative and summative evaluation. So from expert interview and systematic literature review, they make it analyze, design, development, implementation until evaluation. So in this part, the name of their design is proposed M. This proposed M actually this their own research design. Then they try to get the copyright numbers. Okay, they go to the MIPO to register to make sure this idea, this model can be copyright. Okay, this another example. The example actually they have developed the instrument. So instrument they have 10 steps. Okay, in order to answer their research questions. So they have two phase. Phase 1 for development, phase 2 validation. Is actually the name of copyright is STEM teacher instructional approach. Okay, from this 10 step, they are adaptive, they apply to the name is STEMTIP. So in order to make it original research design. Okay, in my case also during my 2000, I'm studying PhD 2008. Okay, so in this research, I also get the copyright because my guideline. So my guideline, we call that LSSPI. So my student also from engineering also apply using this research design in order to answer their objective and research question. They start with the L, look for goal setting, S, structure the hierarchy, S, set the benchmark, P, performance assessment, and I, improvement control plan. So these 5 steps, L, S, S, P, I, actually used by many of researchers outside there in order to propose product, propose system, propose tool. They use my research design for their research. So you can also to propose your own or new design in order to answer your objective and research question. Okay, we refer a few theses here, okay, in order to make it more understanding what is actually research design. No shortcut actually. Okay, you can read books for the research methodology. You can read a book research methodology as many as you can. But the most important thing, you need to write thesis. That's why you need to refer many and many theses. You can understand when after you read your research methodology. But if you want to write in your thesis, how to write in the research methodology section, you need to read more and more thesis. That's why I need to show you some of the example of thesis also in order to make it, in order to write good in terms of your research design. So this one example from Atul Ain Abdul Razak. They study on learning to lead strategy decision making in share leadership organization, challenge and prospect for startup SMEs in Malaysia. Okay, I just to snapshot that the thing that I want to share with you. Okay, it's very impossible. We go through the page by page from Duratul Ain, but I just to pick up little bit in the section of research design so we can get idea. We can know how to write in this section in your research methodology. Okay, research design. The research design play a crucial role, especially during the collection analysis phase, serve overall framework of the study. The site, the primer, and blah, blah. Okay, they start with the writing on research design. We call that, they highlight the some like definitions. But in order to write the definition, they try to make sure it's suitable, represent in your research. Maybe their research you want to come out the frameworks. So that's why it serve an overall framework too is mostly important. In my case, in order to show the people, to show the panel, to show to the supervisor, I need to highlight my all the activity is my research. That's why I come up research design. For example, I just flashback. So I show with you that this is my research design. To show that I have 5 phase to cover all 6 chapters, I'm start with the literature review, construct, formulate the conceptual, develop research hypothesis, design, determine, questionnaire, revise, implement, that screening, data analysis, discussion, the select of the company, develop assessment tools, using the interview, validate confirmation, using case study, conclude with recommendment. So this is a process, my design, research design. So that's why I refer on this Duratul Ain thesis, the first line, citation by Bryman and Bell, the research design played a crucial role, especially during the data collection and analysis phase. It served an overall framework for the study. Okay, that's why you also need to propose your research design to make sure that all panel supervisor and the evaluator will know that your research activities. Before obtain research data, systematic and careful plan the data collection strategy is required. This is ensure the information received from the respondent is sufficient for research to derive the conclusion. That's really important lah. So kita lah instrument that you are actually the instrument. You should be know that okay, now what activity, what is your research activity? What's next? Step follow. What's next? And then go through the next process, the next until end. That's why you need to have very detailed your activity in your research. That you should be know that this is a common activity. Previous study also use the same thing, but you can also make it new or improve the activity in order to make sure you can answer your objective and research question or research question. Okay. Okay. Second paragraph, they highlight that for this study, the case study are chosen for data collection strategy due the research paradigm and philosophy viewpoint which has been discussed in early section and chapter. Okay, that's they highlight about research philosophy. You can start some of field they use a research paradigm. It's actually same. A research paradigm and research philosophicals. Okay, that's why in order to understand your research design, every scholar, most of thesis will be discussed on research philosophical first. Okay, then the research method employed in this study are in-depth interviews. They're using case study. They have their in-depth interview, document analysis, and field note takings. So they're using this instrument to get the data from the research strategy of the case study. So next, in the study, there are two types of data use, primary and then the interview. Okay, so they have many documents also they are refer. Annual report, meetings, minute, company website, chat, and related online information. In parallel, the field notes taking took place in the same time as the interviews. So this is the process to get the data during or the research strategy on the case study. Okay, this one from the pregnant kids. Okay, student lead assessment in a primary classroom. Okay, they start my research will take a qualitative approach. Okay, since this is really important because this research is the qualitative research. It's okay if you are studying qualitative, you can use I, you can use we in part of your writing. Okay, no problem, no issue. But I need to highlight, but it depends on your supervisor. Some your supervisors maybe they have the different style. Maybe they are, I don't know how. Maybe they don't agree that as a researcher you can use using words I and we. But for me, it's okay, and because in qualitative you are is instrument. So in order to make sure to bring very natural settings, you can write. You can make it narrative in your sentence, in your writing, to using the words I, we. This is okay. Then you bring a natural setting. You bring that the natural view in terms of writing in a qualitative research. That's the most important on the qualitative research. How to make sure that you can write in your one paragraph in terms of deeply, it's very clear understanding, very easy to understand, that to make sure that to bring the narrative going to smooth until end will be clear. We can get what actually you want to highlight, you want to tell about this part of the discussions. Okay. All right. That's another point is the Brightman's call that mutual corroboration, in this case between participant and content student. That the part of the keywords. If this is a little bit information, mostly when we talk about the sampling for unit analysis, for qualitative, some you using the participants. But for the quantitative, for example, survey, we call that respondent. Actually, respondent and the participant is the same thing, but the most to differentiate most of the qualitative research, we call that this is our participants. Okay, but for the quantitative, this is our respondents. So this the wording that we use when you read the research methodology, you can find that oh, sometimes they're using participant, use a respondent. Is part of the method. And most of the quantitative using respondent, qualitative using participants. Okay. Okay, if we integrate action research, oh, this research using the qualitative, yeah, pick under umbrella. So the very specific in the qualitative, the choosing of research strategy is the action research. That they explain why they choose a research design on the action research. So they explain this, okay? You can follow this slide lah, because I not discuss all, but I try to give the example of this, how to write in your thesis in the part of your research design. Okay, this is one for the Khairul Anwar and regarding explore the implementation of the professional learning communities program. So the highlight here, so you can refer and the citation, how many they refer the Creswell, refer the vows, okay, by Tashakori et al. Okay, so this one you can understand about more and more about the research design. According to the vows, research design is essential. Okay, essential. Okay, you must to highlight right in your research design. Essential of the structure planning outline were to prepare for understanding the whole study, the whole process of research. Okay, Creswell also highlight the vibrant framework guidance for research design. It consists three major components that we discussed before this: philosophical, strategies, and the research method. Okay, then research design for Creswell also consider applicant mixed method design as the alternative. Okay, why they highlight the mixed method? If you write, if you are not study on mixed method, I believe that the second sentence, the Creswell research design, you not right. Because why you need to highlight the mixed method if you are not use mixed method? In this case, Anwar highlight the mixed method design because they want to use this mixed method. That's why they point out the suitable also from the Creswell research design is for the mixed method research also. Okay, Tashakori et al. 1998 explain that mixed method study. And then they go to another support, another scholar to highlight also for the mixed method. That we know that when you read like this paragraph, you can know that, okay, this research will be used quite mixed methods. Okay. So this is some drawing, okay, from Creswell. Okay, they highlight that this research should be have philosophical research strategy and research method in order to get the data collections and analysis. So there, I try to show from the highlight the box, the red colors. Therefore, research adopted pragmatic views at the worldview or paradigm of the research that is not committed to any one system of philosophy or reality, but draw liberal from quantitative and qualitative subjects. So because you want to use mixed method, that's why you need to cite that the sentence that is most suitable, why you choose mixed method. So in this case, the highlight use, then I highlight philosophy. We have the basically, generally, we have positivism for quantitative, interpretism for qualitative, and mixed method pragmatism. That's why they highlight adopted pragmatic views. Okay. So another Tetley and Tashakori also pragmatism believe that they highlight the pragmatism. Okay. Another part we need to study after this, maybe next week, is regarding ontology, epistemology dengan axiology. So in this research also they highlight regarding the epistemological issues. Okay, please do your homework. Try to study because I will be covered for the next week. What is the epistemology, axiology, and ontology? So this really important during your proposal defense and Viva. The panel will ask you, okay, Fazli, can you explain to us based on your research what is your ontology, epistemology, and axiology? So in this part, you need to answer the part of your research design for philosophy and approach or research paradigm. Okay, you need to answer this. Okay. Okay, the mixed method study utilized, so you can refer this example. Okay, I this because actually for our class, for objective, our class is actually done. So today I just to highlight with you what is your research design, how to understand about research design, how to write research design. So the next slide and another slide is actually I try to show the example. Okay, please study and go through all these slides. This is just two example. I straight away. First section is thesis. Okay, this is thesis. Okay, Next, I'm sharing with you the article journal. From article journal, you can learn also how to write research design. And from the research article, I believe that you this PhD or the master purpose, we not just only need to write a thesis, but you need to write the article journal. So in article journal, so I'm trying to show with you some of the example. Okay, this is a self-learning. You need, because I just to give example, I already highlight the box, the red color, so you can refer in this slide in order to understand on the research design. Okay, all right. I'm open question and Q&A, and I don't know how that our team member actually not many our members join tonight class, but I hope so that for the next class we have very good numbers participant and our attendings for this precision research method. Okay, so today only 50 people will be join our class. Okay. All right. Any questions to ask about research design? The first thing first, you need to write in your chapter 3, you should be write your research design. Okay, that's why I'm trying to cover research design only in order to make sure you understand on research methodology. It's not, for me, for first time I'm learn about research design, it's not easy. And that's why in this topic, I think that I in my first doctorate PhD, 3 years, okay, I spent a lot of time to read of research methodology just to make sure, just to make it very clear understanding what is the research design. I'm still remember that I spent a lot of months to read a research methodology specifically on research design to make sure I'm really understand what is a research methodology. I spent a lot of time. So I believe that in my case, until now, I still need to read books. I still need to read a research methodology book specifically on research design because I need to learn new things about the research methodology. If you want to know that the mothers of the research methodology, some people we call that father, that mother and fathers of research methodology is research design. Okay, that's why research design is really, really important. Okay, question, please. Any questions?
Assalamualaikum, Doktor.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Saya Siti Haniza.
Boleh Siti.
Doktor, regarding the instruments is under research design, right?
Instrument is the last layer.
Yes.
The sixth layer lah. Kalau we follow the sounders, when you discuss about the instruments, so instrument we cover the last layers. So this layer, data collection, data analysis.
So in my research right now, the instrument I'm still confused because I got a 5 section here. So my RO and my RO got 3.
Okay.
So should be the section A is about demographic, right? Section B, section B, C, D,
you want actually when talk about the instrument, we have instrument on qualitative and quantitative. But from your question, you refer on your questionnaire.
Yes, mine is
questionnaire lah. When you talk instrument, you need to specific. Okay, my questionnaire have 3 sections. Okay, section 1 for the demography, chapter 2. So depends. Some people have 5 sections. 6 section. The most important thing you want to answer your objective.
Must answer my RO.
Yes, correct.
One section is answer 1 RO, like that.
You can do that. Some of research you can combine, no problem. You can integrate. For example, my previous experience in section B, actually I'm integrate. Section B, I can answer my objective number 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay,
not specifically, section B for my objective number 2, section C, objective number 3. Not specific. It depends. If in your case, can we do that? Continuous. But other people, some they are integrate. Also can, no problem.
Okay, later I will ask you about my
questionnaire. So questionnaire, the most important thing when you discuss about questionnaire is some people we need to clearly that your questionnaire is actually adopt, adapt, or new. So in your part, your questionnaire is adopt, adapt, or new. Adopt meaning that just copy just copy 100%. We call that adopts. Adapt, you modify. You little bit, you improvise. New, you make it new. Meaning that you don't have any reference for questionnaire. You just follow the literature review. You read from your literature review, make it the fact from literature review to represent on your own questionnaire items. That we call that the new items.
Understand.
So sekarang yang case you macam mana? Adapt, adopt, adapt. So the adapt, when you write in your methodology, the most I think that the most important and rigorous part is process on the validity.
Okay.
When people use on the instrument adapt,
instrument.
the most important thing is validity. You need to clearly on the validity. So we have in a quantitative, you need to know that from systematic literature review, then you need to go to the expert. From the expert, you need to do face-to-face validity, construct validity, content validity. You need to go the normality test. Then you go to the exploratory factor analysis. That the part, that part you need to learn how to write in your methodology, because when we know that your research is quantitative like this. I believe that if you are studying quantitative, you actually same like this. You need to know that falsafah you is positivism, deductive, quantitative. That's why you use tinjauan. Tinjauan is survey. So questionnaire is from the tinjauan. So I believe that if you are quantitative, you should be right like this. This is the quantitative. This one is for the quantitative. Okay, it's okay because in chapter 3, after we end cover on the chapter 3 research methodology, everyone need to propose the outline for chapter 3. So we can know that from your outline we can check whether your research methodology outline will cover the all important things. So kita tengoklah takut ada missing mana-mana yang you tak cover ke, that from the outline we can know that.
Okay, Doctor. Thank you.
Alright. Okay, thank you juga for your questions. Any questions? Okay, I know that this topic is, I don't know how, yeah, I know that the first thing, research design is not easy to understand, but that's why you need to read and read and read. So from my class also tonight, I just to make sure that you can follow this research design, and that's why I try to discuss very specifically. Today just we cover research design only. Okay, but we go to another series of research design. Okay, next week we will be covered to specific research design, so you can easily, it's not easily lah, at least you can differentiate about what is the quantitative research and qualitative research. As researcher, if you cannot differentiate between quanti and qualitative regarding philosophy, approach, strategy, time horizon, and technique, how can you make sure that from your reading, from your process understanding, in terms of your writing also, how to make sure that you're right, this is the way right for quantitative research, qualitative research. For example, problem statement. I always think that how the student can be write your problem statement like this. Your study is quantitative, but your problem statement is qualitative. That part is very important, because he or she cannot differentiate between quantitative and qualitative. If you don't clearly can understand, differentiate between quali and quantitative, you have problem in terms of read the journal and then writing your thesis to make sure that I'm quantitative, should be right quantitative research way. But you are confusing, or you're not not consistent. So that's why some of the supervisor or panel we know that, okay, this researcher cannot differentiate between what is quantitative and qualitative. So next week we cover on that specifically to make sure everyone can be clear, differentiate between quantitative and qualitative, and then you can decide, okay, in this case my study is both. We call that mixed method. So this part we can cover for the following weeks. Okay, any questions? If you don't have question, I think just enough. Okay, just enough for today's on cover on topic research design. So next week, still in research design, series number 2, and specifically to make it comparative and then to differentiate, because this one is really important to know that if I'm the researcher for quantitative, what should I do? If qualitative, what I should do also. Okay? Tak ada apa-apa. Terima kasih banyak-banyak. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum, Doktor.
Ya, nak tutup baru ada soalan.
Sorry.
Okey,
Saya nak tanya,
silakan.
okay, berkenaan dengan falsafah yang ada dekat Raja Bawah Pendidikan ni,
Okay.
macam mana kita nak categoriskan yang, macam mana kita nak tengok yang kita nak categoriskan dia ni di bawah positivism ke ataupun di bawah realism ke, macam mana kita nak kenal pasti benda tu?
Okay. The most important thing that you should be know the definitions. What's meaning of positivism, realism, criticism, interpretism, postmodernism, and pragmatism. To understand this book, one book only discuss on positivism. Okay. One book you need to read for the realism, criticism. I think that sometime regarding our time limitation, we can say that it's not practical lah. How many books I need to read in order to understand the falsafah? But we have a lot of books from the Saunders, from the Creswell. Okay, don't worry. I will pass after class. I have one section on the philosophy, very simple to understand. I show from the Saunders. You can read from the Saunders to make it differentiate. Okay, just I make it the conclusion. Positivism is actually for the quantitative. Why positivism is quantitative? In positivism, whatever in literature review mentioned, I follow whatever literature review mentioned. If literature review mentioned in this topic should be use theory A, I'm use theory A. That the positivism. Is in the previous study highlight the positive and significant, my hypothesis also positive and significant. That we call that positivism. If I'm use this study, I'm using a theory. I'm test the theory. I'm using hypothesis. That positivism. If you use theory and then you need to test the theory, you have hypothesis. You need to testing the hypothesis. We call that positivism. Nah, positivism is straightforward. Dalam another ways, dalam bahasa mudah dia positif. Apa yang orang cakap dia ikut je, dia uji je, itu positivism. Okay, interpretism contradicts. Interpretism contradicts. Interpretism meaning that you actually base the construct. Okay, we know that, okay, we just know a little bit on this, but we don't clear. We cannot deeper. You cannot get very detailed information on this. Betul ke benda ni? Itulah kena turun padang ni. That we call the interpretism. We cannot follow others' answer. We cannot follow others' theory, but you need to face. You need to go to the field work. You need to go to the interview. Until you interview, get the data that you can be checked. Oh, from jawapan interview ni sebenarnya tak ada lagi teori kat dunia lagi. That actually, if you study in qualitative, you can be propose new theory. When the people that I have new theory, it's okay. Researcher can be propose new theory for qualitative research only. Quantitative cannot propose new theory. If you are studying in qualitative, you can propose new theory, interpretism. Okay, actually based on your question, actually I'm discuss for the next weeks actually. But I can give to you one book from the Saunders in the section on the methodology. From this part, I think 4 or 5 page. You can clearly regarding to understand all this method, not just only 5. Okay, this part, if you are studying in degree, you are studying in subject tamadun, something like that, we have a lot of the falsafah and macam-macam falsafah dunia ni. Tapi dalam research, also we can apply the falsafah dunia ini in our research. But in this part, I think very little bit. And realism critical is reading the reality. Everything belong the real facts. This is a fact. This is a reality facts. We cannot change the real fact. That's why sometimes realism or critical we use on the quantitative. So in this part we cannot change. So this part belong to the quantitative. Postmodernism is like qualitative. Pragmatism mixed method. Pragmatism they have both. In pragmatism philosophy they have positivism and Maksudnya dalam kehidupan kita ada benda yang kita just ikut je apa yang ketetapan yang ada, dan satu lagi kita kena bina ketetapan itu. Itu pragmatism. Kan? Okay, this part I can show you, I can share one book from the Sounders to understand about the positivism and else. Okay?
Okay, terima kasih.
Sama best sebenarnya nak belajar positivism, but for me my advice in order to make very short, not shortcut lah, fast understanding to learn about positivism, read a thesis. You read thesis from Ali, you read thesis from Amina. Please read their chapter 3 in the part of the research design. That's why I give you many examples from the thesis in order to make it more understanding about the positivism and interpretism. I honestly, in order to make sure I understand the book from research methodology, I try to read research methodology book, but difficult to understand. But when I start, I refer the thesis, a lot of thesis actually. I refer a thesis that I clearly start to understand. Then after that, I read the research methodology, easy to understand. When I'm start with the research methodology books, I'm quite difficult to understand. But when I start read from the thesis, and then I read the research methodology book, okay, I know that, oh, that's why this book mentioned about the pragmatism like this. Oh, after I'm read the one thesis, they give a very simple definition that I reflect from this book, so I can understand the meaning of the pragmatism. I think but in my case, pragmatism, I take time to make it understand what they belong to pragmatism. So actually pragmatism, they have many type of pragmatism. They have many, this is quite simple. When you read a philosophy, they have a lot of the thing you need to cover, but just enough, just to make it what actually more suitable in your research. If you are studying positivism, just read the positivism in order to write your thesis. If you read a lot about the philosophy, I think you need a lot of book you need to read lah. Previously I have like tried to learn many things, but suddenly I noticed that I need to focus. Okay, if I try to read a lot of book on the philosophy, but I cannot follow my Gantt chart. Okay, I follow the chat room. Okay, retrieve, Syahmi, retrieve. Retrieve is date you get the data. For example, you go to the website. You go to website to get the statistics. So statistics. So what date? For today date, they will put 21st May. So retrieve 21st May. Meaning that the date you get the data. To we call that retrieve date. Okay, you go for my previously, what are the examples? For example, newspaper. So yeah, I know that newspaper is last year, but you retrieve online. So what date actually you get the data? So the date is today, meaning that 21st May. That we call that retrieve date. And tarikh untuk you ambil data tu bila. Sometimes you kena tengok juga kadang-kadang about information. Yes, we know that this book, this data from internet, from this specific date. But now, data tu dah tak ada dah. Something like macam dah dihapuskan ke hilang kan. So, I try to give the one example. Dia kata dia boleh retrieve data. How you retrieve the data? Bila you retrieve semalam? Tak ada dah. Data tu dah 2 tahun dah hilang. Macam mana you boleh explore? Maksudnya, risau juga lah kalau kita tipu dan sebagainya kan. So, to try to make sure they need to prove that when you retrieve this information. So biasa kepahaman internet lah. Sebab tu kita tahu retrieve date tu bila. Of course lah, retrieve tu past tense sebab you dah benda dah lepas kan. You ambil sebab you dah tengok. Jadi retrieve. Okay, kalau tak ada apa-apa soalan, kita jumpa next week. Kita sambung lagi this topic. Topik ni very interesting, research design. So I try to cover another angle that I will not cover today to make sure that you clearly understand on the research design. Okay, we now already in the chapter research methodology. So we have done chapter 1 and chapter 2. So now we need to learn, because in this class, actually I need to give you more rigorously in terms of research methodology. Okay, we need to go through the outline by outline. So we go through the research design. After this, we cover the population and sampling. We need to go the outline by outline. Okay, this part is for me really important. So that's why and not to be rushed to cover many things. So because the most important thing when you go to the class research methodology is understand. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum dan selamat sejahtera. Anything you can ask in the group, WhatsApp group also. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much.